She rejected my touch for 6 months, treating me like furniture. So I vanished overnight with my multi-million-dollar business. That's when she lost control and bombarded me with 23 texts in 2 hours. But by then, I'd already signed the lease on my new life. My name is Craig Henderson. I'm 42 years old, and up until 6 months ago, I was the director of logistics for one of the largest freight companies in the Midwest, managing oversized cargo shipments across 3 states. 20 years I'd given to that company. Started as a dock worker fresh out of college, worked my way up through dispatch, operations, and finally landed in the corner office. Then corporate decided to restructure, which is just a fancy way of saying they wanted younger blood at half the salary. The day I got that pink slip, I drove home in a daze. Dana was in the kitchen when I walked in, making her famous lasagna, the one she always made for special occasions. "You're home early," she said, not looking up from the cutting board. We'd been together for 8 years, married for 5. She was 39, a pharmaceutical sales rep who traveled 3 days a week. We'd met at a conference hotel bar, both of us nursing drinks after long days of meetings. "They let me go," I told her, setting my box of office belongings on the counter. "Budget cuts." She stopped chopping, knife suspended in midair. For a moment, I saw something flash across her face. Disappointment? Fear? But then she put the knife down and came to me, wrapping her arms around my waist. "We'll figure it out," she said. "We always do." That night, as we ate the lasagna meant to celebrate her quarterly bonus, I made a decision. I've been kicking around this idea for a B2B logistics platform, something that would make freight pricing transparent, cut out the middlemen. With my severance package and our savings, I had enough runway for a year. Dana seemed supportive, even excited. "It's about time you bet on yourself," she said, raising her wine glass. "Here's to new beginnings." The first few weeks after losing my job were a blur of activity. I converted our spare bedroom into an office, bought a whiteboard, and started mapping out my business plan. 20 years in logistics had taught me one thing. Shippers were getting killed by hidden fees and fluctuating rates. My platform would change that. Transparent pricing, real-time tracking, no middleman markups. Dana would peek in sometimes, bringing coffee or sandwiches. "My entrepreneur," she'd say with a smile that seemed genuine enough. But I noticed she started working later, taking more overnight trips to medical conferences. "Another conference?" I asked one evening as she packed her rolling suitcase. It was the 3rd one that month. "Cardiac Devices Symposium in Denver," she said, folding a black dress I bought her for our anniversary. "Dr. Morrison specifically requested me for the booth. It's good money, Craig. Especially now." "That's done a little. I've got savings, Dana. We're not hurting." She zipped the suitcase, not meeting my eyes. "I know. I just want to contribute more while you're getting started. Besides, Stephanie's tuition isn't getting any cheaper. Our daughter from her previous marriage was 19, sophomore year at Northwestern. My son Jake from my first marriage was 22, working construction in Phoenix, determined to make his own way. Empty nesters, they called us, though the house felt emptier lately, even when Dana was home. I threw myself into building the platform. Set up meetings with old contacts from the trucking industry, guys who knew the pain points of freight pricing. My buddy Marcus, who ran a small fleet out of Indianapolis, became my first beta tester. "This could actually work," Marcus said after reviewing my prototype. "Shippers are tired of getting jerked around on rates. You price this right, you'll have customers lined up." But success at work highlighted what was failing at home. Dana and I had developed a routine where we moved around each other like polite strangers. She'd come home from trips exhausted, pour a glass of Pinot Grigio, and disappear into our bedroom with her laptop. When I tried to share wins, like signing up my first 3 paying customers, she'd nod absently, eyes still on her screen. "Remember when we used to talk for hours?" I said one night, sitting on the edge of our bed. "About everything and nothing, planning our future, dreaming about traveling once the kids were grown." She looked up from her phone, and for a second, I saw the woman I'd fallen for at that hotel bar 8 years ago. Then she blinked, and the wall went back up. "People change, Craig. We're not the same people we were at 35. Doesn't mean we can't try," I said, reaching for her hand. "When's the last time we went out? Just the 2 of us. Had dinner without checking phones." She pulled her hand back, pretending to adjust her reading glasses. "I'm tired. Early flight tomorrow." Another symposium in Atlanta. I nodded, got up, and headed back to my office. If she wanted space, I'd give her space. But somewhere deep down, I knew that wasn't really what either of us needed. The distance between us was growing, and I was starting to wonder if she even noticed or cared. By month 3, my platform was gaining serious traction. I'd landed a meeting with Reynolds Transport, one of the biggest players in the Midwest. The CEO, Bill Reynolds, was old school, the kind of guy who still believed in handshake deals and looking a man in the eye. "Henderson," Bill said, leaning back in his leather chair, studying me over steepled fingers. "I remember you from the freight conferences. You always shot straight, no nonsense. That's why I took this meeting." We talked for 2 hours. I showed him the platform's interface, the real-time pricing, the transparency that cut through industry garbage. By the end, he was ready to integrate his entire fleet, 500 trucks across 6 states, into my system. "But I need to know you're in this for the long haul," he said, standing to shake my hand. "I don't partner with quitters." "I don't quit," I told him, gripping his hand firmly. "Never have, never will." The irony wasn't lost on me. Here I was, promising stability to a business partner while my marriage was crumbling. Dana had been gone for 5 days straight. A medical conference in Seattle that somehow required arriving 3 days early for setup. That night, I called my first wife, Patricia. We'd stayed friendly for Jake's sake, and she'd always been a straight shooter. "How did you know?" I asked her. "When we were heading for divorce." "How did you know it was over?" Patricia sighed through the phone. "When you stopped being partners and became roommates. When the silence felt safer than talking. When you'd rather work late than come home." Sound familiar? It did. Every word. Dana came home the next day, and I decided to try one more time. Made dinner, grilled salmon with that honey glaze she loved, asparagus, baby potatoes. Set the table with the good plates. Opened a bottle of that Pinot Grigio from our Napa trip 2 years ago. "What's all this?" she asked, setting down her suitcase, looking genuinely surprised. "Thought we could celebrate," I said. "Landed Reynolds Transport today. Biggest client yet. Half their fleet, Dana. This could change everything." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "That's great, Craig. Really." She picked at her food, pushed the asparagus around her plate like she was rearranging furniture. "Listen, there's something I need to tell you. I've been offered a promotion. Regional Sales Director. It's what I've worked toward for 10 years. "That's fantastic," I said, though something in her tone made my stomach tighten. "What's the catch?" "More travel. A lot more." She finally looked at me. 3 weeks a month, minimum. Maybe more. Covering everything from Chicago to Dallas. 3 weeks. I set down my wine glass. "Dana, we barely see each other as it is. The money would set us up for retirement," she continued, as if I hadn't spoken. "Stephanie's loans would be covered. We could help Jake buy that house he's been looking at. We don't need the money," I said. "The platform's taking off. What we need is time together. What we need is..." "What? What do we need, Craig?" Her voice had an edge I'd rarely heard. "Because from where I'm sitting, we're 2 people sharing a mortgage and not much else." I set down my fork, appetite gone. "So that's it. You're just giving up." "I'm being realistic," she said. "We want different things now. Maybe we always did, and we just didn't see it." The next few weeks were like living with a ghost. Dana took the promotion, started packing for longer trips. She'd leave detailed notes about bills, grocery lists, things that needed attention, as if she was a property manager, not a wife. I dove deeper into work, scheduling meetings at all hours, just to avoid the empty house. My platform was thriving. 15 new clients, revenue projections that made my banker smile, and offer a line of credit I didn't need. But success fell hollow when you had no one to share it with. Jake called one evening while I was reviewing contracts. "Dad, you sound tired. Everything okay?" "Just busy, son. Business is booming." I try to keep my voice steady, professional. "Mom says you and Dana are having problems." Patricia had always been perceptive, even from Phoenix. "It's complicated," I said, rubbing my temples. "It always is," Jake replied. "But you taught me something when you and Mom split. You said a man faces his problems head-on, doesn't run from them. Said that's what separates the men from the boys. Still believe that?" I did. His words hit harder than he knew, which is why I made a decision that night. I found Dana in the bedroom, packing for another trip, Dallas this time. Her suitcase was organized with military precision, everything in its place. "We need to talk," I said, standing in the doorway. "Really talk. Not dance around it anymore." She folded a blouse, placed it carefully in her suitcase. "I know. Do you even want to try?" I asked. "Counseling, therapy, a weekend away to reconnect? Something." She sat on the bed, finally meeting my eyes. "I don't know if I have it in me, Craig. I'm 39 years old. I spent my 20s raising Stephanie basically alone while Ryan drank himself into oblivion. Spent my early 30s getting divorced, starting over. Then I met you and thought, finally, stability. But now what?" I moved closer, sat on the chair across from her. "Now I realize I've never been alone. Never figured out who I am without being someone's wife, someone's mother, someone's support system. I'm tired, Craig. Bone tired. So you're choosing the job over us?" "I'm choosing myself," she said quietly. For once, I understood then. This wasn't about the travel or the promotion. She'd already left emotionally. Her body just hadn't caught up yet. "When did it happen?" I asked. "What did you stop loving me?" She looked away, focusing on a spot on the wall. "I don't know. Maybe when you lost your job, and I realized I'd been depending on you the same way I depended on Ryan. Maybe before that. Maybe I never really knew how to love someone without losing myself in the process." "That's not true," I said. "We were partners. Equals. Were we?" She stood, resumed packing. Or was I just playing another role? Supportive wife 2.0. I left the room without another word. That night, I slept in my office, staring at the business plan on my wall. I'd built something from nothing in 3 months. Maybe it was time to apply that same determination to rebuilding my life. Without her, Dana took her promotion and threw herself into the new role with an enthusiasm I hadn't seen in years. Just not for our marriage. She'd come home between trips, do laundry, repack, and leave again. We were running a relay race where neither of us wanted to pass the baton. Meanwhile, my platform exploded. 6 months after launch, I had 43 transport companies signed up, processing over $1 million in transactions monthly. Marcus called it the Uber moment for freight. I hired a CFO, expanded the development team, and moved into actual office space downtown. "You did it," Patricia said when she called to congratulate me. "Jake told me about the Bloomberg article. I'm proud of you, Craig." "Thanks," I said, staring out my new corner office window. Funny how success feels different than I imagined. Because you're celebrating alone? Something like that. The conversation with Patricia stayed with me. That weekend, Dana was actually home, a rare 2-day break between Dallas and Chicago. I found her in the living room, laptop open, working on sales projections. "We need to make a decision," I said, sitting across from her. "About us." She looked up, and for the first time in months, really saw me. "I know. I've been thinking about what you said, about never being alone, never finding yourself." I leaned forward. "Maybe you're right. Maybe we both settled for comfortable when we should have pushed for extraordinary." "Craig, let me finish," I said. "I've spent 6 months building this business, proving I could stand on my own. Maybe you need to do the same. But I can't live in this limbo anymore. Either we're married or we're not." She closed her laptop slowly. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying choose. Take your 3 weeks a month and figure out what you want. But when you're here, be here. All in. Or file the papers, and let's stop pretending." The silence stretched between us like a tightrope. Finally, she nodded. "You're right. This isn't fair to either of us." That night, for the first time in months, she reached for my hand in bed. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "For all of it." "Me too," I said, squeezing back. But we both knew sorry wouldn't fix what was broken. Some things, once shattered, can't be glued back together. You just sweep up the pieces and start over. The next morning, she was gone before I woke. A note on the kitchen counter. "Early flight to Denver. Back Thursday. We'll talk then." But I knew that talk would never come. She was already gone, had been for months. Her body just hadn't caught up to her heart yet. 2 weeks later, I knew which way the wind was blowing. Dana had stopped leaving notes. Stopped pretending to care about household details. Started moving her things to the guest room without explanation. The morning she left for her Atlanta trip, she kissed my cheek, a gesture so foreign it felt like goodbye. "How long this time?" I asked. 10 days, she said. Then softer, "Craig, when I get back, we should talk. Really talk. I'll be here, I said, though we both knew that conversation would only go one way. After she left, I did something I hadn't done in years. I called my dad. At 71, he was still sharp as a tack, still working his farm in Iowa. Son, he said, your mother and I went through a rough patch when you were young. Almost called it quits. I didn't know that, I said, genuinely surprised. They'd been married 48 years. We hit it well. But here's what I learned. Sometimes love isn't enough. You need respect, shared goals, and the willingness to grow together. Without those, love just becomes a pretty word for habit. His words hit deep. That afternoon, I met with my lawyer. Not to file, but to understand my options. Knowledge is power, and I refuse to be blindsided. Protect the business, he advised. Everything else is just money. But I wasn't thinking about money. I was thinking about Stephanie calling me crying because her parents couldn't make it work. About Jake watching his dad fail at marriage twice. About the example I was setting. That evening, I sat in my office, staring at a photo from our wedding. Dana looked radiant, full of hope. I looked confident, sure I'd learned from my mistakes. We were both wrong. My phone buzzed. A text from Dana. Delayed in Atlanta. Client dinner. Be home Sunday instead of Friday. I didn't respond. What was the point? We were already speaking different languages. That night, I started sleeping in the guest room. Not out of anger, but acceptance. Some battles aren't worth fighting. Some wars are lost before the first shot is fired. The business thrived. My marriage died. And somewhere in between, I learned the difference between giving up and letting go. One is weakness. The other is wisdom. It took me 42 years to learn which was which. But here's what really got me. She rejected my touch first. Every attempt at affection met with excuses. Too tired, too busy, not now. So I removed my presence, stopped trying, stopped reaching. And that's when she finally noticed. When the attention stopped, when the effort ended, suddenly she wanted to talk. But by then, it was too late. I made my move on a Tuesday morning. Dana was in Houston, had been for 4 days. I hired movers, packed my things, and left. No drama, no grand gestures. Just a man reclaiming his life. The apartment I'd rented was downtown, walking distance from my office. Modern, clean, minimal. Everything our house hadn't been in months. As I unpacked, my phone started buzzing. Dana was home. Where are you? Her first text. Where are your things? The second. Craig, what's going on? The third. I let them pile up. 23 texts in 2 hours. Then the call started. I answered on the 5th attempt. You just left. Her voice was shrill, panicked. Without telling me. Like you've been leaving for months, I said calmly. Only difference is, I'm not coming back. This is insane. You can't just. I can, I did. I sat on my new couch, looking out at the city skyline. The divorce papers are on the kitchen counter. I've been more than fair with the settlement. The house is yours if you want it. I don't want the house. I want to talk. Now you want to talk. I almost laughed. For 6 months, you couldn't be bothered. Every time I reached for you, you pulled away. Every conversation I started, you ended. So I removed myself from the equation. Suddenly, I have your attention. Craig, please. Come home. We can work this out. No, I said. We can't. And we both know it. The silence stretched. Then she played her last card. What about Stephanie? She sees you as her father. And I'll always be here for her, I said. But not for you. Not anymore. I hung up, turned off my phone, poured myself a scotch, and watched the sun set over my new life. Jake called the next morning, having heard from Patricia. You okay, Dad? Better than I've been in months, I told him. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is admit defeat and start over. Proud of you, he said. Takes guts to walk away. But I wasn't walking away. I was walking towards something. My business was thriving. We just closed a series of funding round. $5 million to expand nationally. I had plans, goals, a future that excited me. Dana had been an anchor disguised as a life preserver. Cutting her loose wasn't giving up. It was setting sail. The irony was perfect. For months, she treated my presence like an inconvenience. My touch like an intrusion. Now that I'd vanished, suddenly I was essential. Her texts became increasingly desperate. Voicemails went from angry to pleading to bargaining. But I'd learned something valuable. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Not the 15th, when they're panicking because their safety net is gone. 2 weeks into my new life, Dana escalated. She showed up at my office, dressed like she was closing a $1 million deal. My assistant tried to stop her, but Dana pushed past. "We need to talk," she announced, closing my door behind her. I leaned back in my chair. "We're talking through lawyers now. You should know that." "Screw the lawyers." She sat down, uninvited. 42 years old, Craig. We're 42. You want to start over? With who? Some 25-year-old who doesn't know what she wants. I want to start over with myself, I said. Figure out who I am without trying to save someone else. I never asked you to save me. No, you just expected it. I stood up, moved to the window. Every crisis, every drama, I was there. Fixing, solving, supporting. And when I needed you, when I lost my job and had to rebuild, you ran. Conferences, trips, promotions, anything to avoid being present. That's not fair, isn't it? I turned to face her. Name one time in the last 6 months you put us first. One time you chose our marriage over your career. She opened her mouth, closed it. The silence said everything. I thought so. I returned to my desk. Dana, I wish you well. I really do. But this. I gestured between us. This is done. So that's it. She stood, anger replacing desperation. 7 years. And you just ghost me. You ghosted me first. I said. I just made it official. She left without another word. But the texts kept coming. From anger to bargaining to promises of change. Classic stages of grief for something she'd killed months ago. Marcus stopped by that evening with a bottle of champagne. To celebrate your freedom, he said. To new beginnings, I countered. We drank on my balcony, watching the city lights. You know what the funny part is? I said, she finally wants to work on us. Now, after I've moved on. That's how it always goes, Marcus said. People don't value what they have until it's gone. Her loss, I said, and meant it. That night, I blocked her number. Not out of anger, but necessity. You can't drive forward while looking in the rearview mirror. My marriage was a casualty of neglect, killed by 1,000 small rejections. But my life, that was just beginning. Stephanie reached out a few days later. I'm sorry about you and Mom, she texted. But I understand. She's been impossible lately. You're always welcome in my life, I replied. That doesn't change. And it didn't. Family isn't just blood. It's choice. Dana had chosen her path. I'd chosen mine. And for the first time in months, I was exactly where I wanted to be. Alone but not lonely. Single but not broken. Free to build something real without someone constantly tearing it down. 6 months after I left, the divorce was final. Dana fought it initially, hired an aggressive lawyer from some downtown firm, tried to claim the business was marital property. She argued that my networking during our marriage contributed to its success. But my attorney, a bulldog named Harrison, shut that down fast. I'd started it after separation, funded it with my severance and personal savings, incorporated it as a sole proprietorship. In the end, she got the house, half the savings, Stephanie's college fund, and a reality check about what she'd thrown away. The business exploded beyond my wildest dreams. We went national within 8 months, then international. Transport companies from Canada to Mexico wanted in. I was featured in Fortune's 40 under 50 list, though technically I was 43. The interviewer asked about my inspiration. I told her, sometimes losing everything gives you the freedom to build something better. Jake moved to the city, took a job with Turner Construction. We had dinner every Wednesday at this little Italian place near my apartment. Dad, you look 10 years younger, he said one night over lasagna that reminded me of happier times. Feel it too, I said. Funny what happens when you stop carrying dead weight. Mom says Dana's miserable, he mentioned casually. Calling her friends, crying about making a mistake. Not my circus, not my monkeys, I said, borrowing an old Polish proverb my grandmother used to say. Stephanie stayed in touch despite the divorce. She graduated summa cum laude, got a job in pharmaceutical sales like her mother. We met for lunch monthly. I understand why you left, she told me over sushi. Mom's impossible. She's already dating some cardiologist from Methodist Hospital. Dr. Grant something. Good for her, I said, and meant it. Hope she finds what she's looking for. She had it, Stephanie said, stabbing at her California roll. She just didn't know it. Now she texts me at midnight, after wine, asking if you ever mention her. What do you tell her? The truth. That you moved on. That you're building something amazing. She paused, that you're happier without her. But that wasn't my problem anymore. I'd rebuilt my life from scratch. Morning runs by Lake Michigan, evening meetings with investors, weekends with real friends who celebrated my success instead of resenting it. The apartment became my sanctuary, a place where every single thing was chosen by me, for me. No compromises on furniture, no debates about wall colors, just clean lines and peace. Patricia and I became friends in a way we never were during marriage. "You've changed," she said during one of Jake's birthday dinners. "More confident, more yourself, less apologetic about taking up space." "That's what happens when you stop trying to be what someone else wants," I said. The platform hit 100 million in transactions. Forbes called. CNBC won an interview. We got acquisition offers from FedEx, UPS, even Amazon. I turned them all down. This was mine, built from nothing while my marriage crumbled. Selling felt like betrayal of everything I'd sacrificed. Then came the text that made me laugh out loud. "Dana, exactly 1 year after the divorce. I made a terrible mistake. Can we please talk? I'll come to you." I showed it to Marcus. He nearly spit out his coffee. Now she wants to talk. After she got her promotion, traveled the world, dated around. Classic. I deleted it without responding. Some chapters deserve to stay closed, locked, and buried. 2 years later, I stood in my new office, top floor of the Hancock Building, corner suite, view of the entire city spread out like a promise kept. The company was valued at $200 million. We employed 300 people across 6 countries. The kid who got fired for a stupid comment about body positivity had built an empire on transparency and fairness. The irony wasn't lost on me. "Mr. Henderson," my assistant Elena said, "your 3 o'clock is here." Also, that reporter from the Wall Street Journal called again. I was interviewing CEO candidates for our European expansion. I'd step back, become chairman, let someone else run daily operations. The American dream, realized and then some. That night, I had a date. Third one with Rebecca, a neurosurgeon at Northwestern. Divorced, 2 kids in college, absolutely zero interest in being saved or saving anyone. We'd met at a charity auction. She'd outbid me on a Rolex, then bought me a drink to apologize. "So," she said over wine at Gibson's, "my ex-husband saw your Bloomberg interview. Now he's convinced I'm dating you for money. Are you?" I asked, grinning. "Absolutely. I'm only making $350 a year saving lives. Clearly, I need a sugar daddy." She laughed, genuine and free. "He's an idiot. Always was. Mine's dating a cardiologist now." I offered. "Apparently, she tells people I abandoned her for my company." "Did you?" "No," I said. "She abandoned us first. I just formalized it." She rejected every attempt at connection for months, then lost her mind when I finally removed myself from the equation. "Control issues," Rebecca diagnosed. "See it all the time. They want you available, but not present. Committed, but not connected. Then panic when you choose yourself." We talked until the restaurant closed. She insisted on splitting the check. Didn't need me to pay. Didn't expect me to fix her problems. Didn't see me as a meal ticket or a renovation project. Just 2 successful adults, enjoying each other's company. Walking her to her Tesla, she said, "I really like you, Craig. But I need you to know, I'm not looking for a white knight. I bought my own armor." "Good," I said. I retired my horse. Driving home, I thought about the journey. 2 years ago, I was sleeping in my office, wondering where my marriage went wrong. Now I had everything: company, purpose, possibilities. All because I'd refused to accept scraps disguised as love. My phone buzzed. "Dana again. Saw the article about your company going public. I'm so proud of you. Maybe we could get coffee. I have something important to tell you." This time I didn't delete it. I responded, "No, thank you. Wish you well." She replied immediately, "I really messed up, didn't I? I pushed away the best thing in my life. Grant left me. Said I talked about you too much. Craig, I'm sorry. For everything." I started to type a response, then stopped. Deleted the thread. Some conversations weren't worth having. Some apologies came too late to matter. Jay called as I got home. "How'd the date go?" "Good," I said. "Really good. She's brilliant. Successful. Doesn't need me for anything except company. That's what you deserve, Dad. An equal, not a project." I did deserve it. Took me 44 years to figure that out, but better late than never. The business thrived. My relationships were healthy. My life was finally completely mine. Looking back, Losing my job was the first domino. It led to the business, which revealed the cracks in my marriage, which led to freedom, which led to success, which led to here. Sometimes the worst thing that happens becomes the best thing that could have happened. Dana had rejected my touch, my presence, my attempts to save us. So I'd removed myself entirely. And in that removal, I'd found something better than what I'd lost. I found myself. And that, as it turns out, was worth everything.